the very usual traditional tools were rewards and punishments. And the punishment could have been as mild as a bit of gentle shaming, as if there's anything mild about shaming, or it could have been on the spectrum of, you know, getting physical punishment. So the newer tools that some of us have been taught include time out, or simply trying to ignore a child's behaviour. And I know, I would say for myself, before I was working with the parenting by connection approach, I was probably on that spectrum of the permissive parent approach, which is one that many of us who've had maybe too many limits as kids adopt as we grow up and have our own children. And the difficulty with that approach is that it's kind of on a cycle, and you sort of start up here and you're just patient and you're just going to ignore that thing that you didn't like to happen, and you just go, oh, it's okay, and then you'll get to a point where you will just sort of be like, would you stop that? Like, and often, and I see it a lot in parents, who are really trying not to be rigid with their kids and really trying not to be authoritarian and really trying to do it differently, that actually they're really trying to just gently let it all happen, and then there'll be a point where they get re-stimulated, they get reactive, and boom, whatever happened to them as a child, they do to their child. So we're saying that rewards and punishments and timeouts, or trying to ignore a child's behaviour, or reasoning with a child when they're not in that prefrontal cortex, none of these things work well. You find that a child will just come back and back with the same behaviours. So this is really frustrating for you, it's really frustrating for the child. It's discouraging for everyone. So the reason these tools of rewards and punishments, or timeouts, or ignoring, distracting a child don't work is because they're only focusing on the outward behaviour. They're not addressing what's going on inside the child's mind and their emotions. So if we focus on connection, you find that they start to make good decisions. They learn from their experience. They already know how to love, and they love to play, to cooperate, when they can think and when they feel safe. So I can give you an example of setting a loving limit. I seem to be using Max, my son, a lot. I do have stories to do with Juno, but this is about Max. He and I went to watch the Olympic torch run through Lewis, and he was this is a couple of years ago. He was really excited about it because he'd been doing it as a school project, and he'd got really involved in the whole idea. And so we got out onto the pavement early, and we were right up the front, and there was even a little wall that I could hold him on so he could see all the action. Actually, this is a good story because it relates to the moving house stuff. And we saw the runner with the torch. It was so exciting, and really exciting. And it went by in a second, and then Max and Juno, his sister, were like, let's chase let's run after the torch. So we ran after the torch, and I kind of caught up with them, and Max was in this thing about, I want, you know, it was this really tacky piece of Olympic merchandising. It was like, you know, a fake medal or something that people were selling on the street. And he was just like, I want that. And I had actually got, against my better non-nationalistic wishes, I had actually bought a Union Jack for them to wave. So not only did I really not have the money to spend, I just knew this was an emotional project for Max, because he likes to buy things, you know. And I thought, okay, I could buy the junk for £1.50, and it could be on his bedroom floor this evening, and I'll be resentful, and it will not be, I won't feel good about that. Or, because I'm learning parenting by connection now, I could try bringing a loving limit. I'm going to try to just use this as an opportunity to connect. And I remember really consciously having to do it, because it was new. It was a new, you know, it wasn't easier, but it was more familiar for me to sort of think, oh God, okay, it's only £1, or it's £1.50, all right. But I thought, no, I'm learning parenting by connection, and I'm setting a loving limit. So I got down to his level and made eye contact, and I said, Max, we're not buying any more merchandising. Shall we do it? So, I'm on there. I need a thought bubble which goes, oh shit. But so I go, I say, Max, Max, we're not buying any more Olympic merchandising today.
Yeah, you are.
We're not buying any more Olympic merchandising. And he got really angry. He got really angry.
You are stupid.
He did. And I said to him, I'm not going to let you hurt me. I'm not going to let you hurt me, Max. But I can't buy any more merchandising. And he tried to bite me. He tried to bite me. And I was like, wow, this is severe. And I said, Maxie, I can't let you hurt me, but we're not getting any more merchandising. And by this point, he'd wedged himself against the sports merchandising shop. I want the mascot and I want the thing, and I just held the limit. I brought the limit and I held it and I said, no, we're not getting any more Olympic merchandising today. We're not buying Olympic things today. And I don't want to come here. And he kept doing this, and he kept doing this, and eventually he burst into tears. And he started to sob, and he said to me, Mum, I just want something that I can keep forever. And we just moved house, and my sister had been over from Australia with her little son, and they'd got really close, and then she'd just gone back. And oh my God, I went from feeling like, why is my child so out of control? Like, you know, like, what is all this? To just, I was just like, I get that. I totally get that, Max. And I held him, and he cried, and he cried. You know, he'd left his best friend at the old school and all that stuff. And he cried, and he cried, and he cried. And then it passed like a storm. You know, it passes like a storm. And then we had a really gentle, the whole Olympic merchandising thing, it just wasn't in his head. It was gone. That was not the issue. And we went and we had a lovely, really lovely afternoon together, and I went to a yoga class that evening, and he came downstairs and was kissing and blowing kisses, and I love you, Mum, you know, I love you too, Max, love you too, just going to yoga, be back soon. Need a listening partnership. And his sense of connection with me was so warm and strong. And I thought, wow, this stuff really works. I always think that when I think this stuff really works. And he, the next day, or not the next day, but, you know, a few days later, we were in a supermarket, and there was all the little plastic toys and things, and he said, can I look at the toys? I said, sure, we can look at the toys. And then he said, can I buy one of the toys? I said, not today, Max, we didn't come for toys. And he kind of went, I thought, okay, have I got, you know, how can I do this in a supermarket right now? And then he sort of went, and it was done. And we walked to the counter, and there was every possible thing you could buy, chewing gum, la la la. Wasn't interested. You could see he was really pleased with himself. He'd hung on to himself. He knew he'd done something. He knew he'd got through something, and that the little plastic thing actually didn't have the hold over him anymore. And I feel like, because I noticed that day in Lewis, the whole town was heading for the sports shop to buy the merchandise after the runner had gone through, and I thought, this is a cultural pattern to consume, to fill up the holes where we got lost or where, and I thought, fantastic, because maybe that chunk of listening and not saying, you know, you dare bite me and you're going to slap across the face, or don't you even think about biting me, or just to allow that I'm so, you know, I've got so many strong feelings about this. I thought it's kind of helping him work on an emotional project around consumption, which is something our entire culture's hung up on. So it felt like, for me, these tools feel like practical, not simple, but practical tools that you can use that are sort of, as Joanna said to me recently, it's countercultural, but it's kind of framed in a way that's doable. So we thought that there was a question about what are the signals when a child wants a limit, when they're really asking you for connection. And a classic is, and I guess that example of Max's is a classic, it's the spoiled outing. So you've had a great day. You know, I got to the front of the queue, we spent half an hour waiting for the runner to come by. you know, we've really had a great day together. And that's, you can count on that being the time. Birthday parties, you know, when they've got a lot of attention on them, or, you know, a really lovely day with the extended family and a party, you can count on that spoiled outing. It's you know, it's one of the signals. And ultimately, if you kind of boil it all down and get to the marrow of this approach, it's actually not about like endless emotional release and just, it's actually about allowing your child and yourself to think flexibly, to think well, to not get stuck in rigid behaviours. That's where the approach is moving us.